Hi, everybody. Okay, so Friday, happy Friday. Oh, it's Saturday. We are burning the midnight oil. It's Saturday. It is September 27th, 2025 at 12:33 a.m. here. Um, so let's here in South Carolina. So let's see if everything looks like everything is going. And so we're at 1,883 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks and taken to a soundproof room. His life was taken from him brutally. His remains were stolen. This all happened on Fort Bliss. He was dismembered and his body was trafficked. And that's why we want his remains. We want his remains. And that takes some work to get them. It takes some work. So, but we're getting closer, and a lot of developments have happened that are leaping us forward to getting that done. As you may have heard, the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth is bringing the generals, all the generals and admirals together. We are very generals and admirals top heavy. We have been saying that from the beginning of this. I was retaliated against because I said 44 four-star generals and admirals are really serving foreign and domestic enemies. I didn't have anything nice to say about them. Now I guess there's a few that I have something nice to say, but for the most part, most of them need to be stripped from their uniforms and the stars that we have entrusted to them because those are our uniforms. This is our military. Those are our stars. These are our benefits, our taxpayer money that grants them these benefits. And they have betrayed us. Many of them have betrayed us. Secretary of State Hegseth absolutely knows that. And that is being reported. And they have betrayed us, and many have committed treason. Absolutely. There's no there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Okay. It is absolutely has reached that level. And so, how he's going to deal in this atmosphere, a very weak, what Biden, what former presidents did to us. Like I mentioned, President Clinton today, he was uh, the wise one that decided that we could have co-ed barracks in our military. Yeah, right. It would be him, right? It would be him that did that. That caused so much pain and suffering, I can tell you, and so really hurt our readiness, our military readiness. Just so much damage done. I don't think that it can be calculated. The damage that that co-ed barracks in our military has done. It's just absolutely insane to think of young service members full of vim and vigor, um, uh, you know, putting them when they're supposed to be learning discipline, putting them in a co-ed barracks, and then opening up security where you have virtually no security, where they stay drunk most of the time. I mean, really, and the drugs are flowing in, and 14-year-old girls are living in the barracks for 4 months. I kid you not. That's multiple times already. and they're bringing girls in to party, young girls, very young girls during the lockdown. I mean, no discipline at all, just setting them up. And the purpose is, and we know because Clintons are up to no good. We know that they're up to no good in Haiti. We know that they're up to no good with Soros, Huma Abedin. We know they're absolutely up to no good, um, period, for the United States. And so when you're up to no good, you don't want a very strong military or whistleblowers in the military. You want to compromise everybody. If you compromise them, with all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of, you call them vices, right? If you compromise them, the problem with that is that legally you can then punish them. And so you can use that as leverage against them for blackmail. And so this is clearly what years of investigating and talking to so many people, what they have said when they joined the military, what the barracks compromised them, and when they got out, they were not the same people. They were much worse off. They were not blessed by serving in our military. They were absolutely. They had a lot of mental health problems because of what they had been subject to or participated in, really in the barracks by their own, right? So this is, it's kind of like going to prison, right? Going to prison. But this is a volunteer military. And, I really think anybody is a jerk that thinks it's okay, thinks it's such a wise thing to do to put uh, our soldiers that are young in barracks, in co-ed barracks, and then let a lot of nonsense enter because they didn't secure their living area, and um, and then set them up for just the most rottenest thing, like Grenville Clarke, who is he, a sergeant there at Fort Hood. Fort Hood is, I know a lot about Fort Hood. I used to work in Killeen at a school at Peebles Elementary School. I was married on Fort Hood. Um, we had our first child in Killeen. I know a lot about Killeen. I know a lot about Fort Hood. I know its problems. Um, and it just because of poor leadership, because of this co-ed, um, and of course I'm not blaming the co-ed barracks. I'm blaming the leadership that put that through. But you can tell what bad leadership does. It absolutely gives you the environment for a lot of bad things to happen that cause readiness to fail. And what do I mean by readiness? If you're in the army, if you're in the military, you absolutely know that you need to be ready at all times, right? And that readiness has failed. And anything that hurts readiness, army readiness, any kind of military readiness, that to act on a dime for our national security, is a problem, is a security breach. I know that I'm just a wife, right? I'm just a wife of a 30-year veteran, but of course, the daughter of a 23-year veteran, of course, the mother of Richard Halliday, um, and I know what breaches in security, what kind of evil that can produce. And that breaches in security is also a total risk to uh, our national image, right? Our national image of strength. And we're suffering through that, um, that damage because Greville Clarke was allowed to be a predator for over 18 months in the barracks on Fort Hood, right? Starting, get this, March 21st. And I've been wanting to talk about this case, but the news has been absolutely so fast. And now he's in the news again because he is no longer alive. He was found unresponsive at Fort Leavenworth in his cell. He had gotten life and plus another 112 years on top of that. But he was allowed to be a predator, just like William Molinar is allowed to be a predator, just like Leilani Hart is allowed to be a predator, and the Hart family being a predator, and so many others. Um, in our son's case, right? This whole group that we have absolutely been reporting, they're allowed to be predators. And the worst type, the worst kinds of crimes against children. Fort Bliss, hundreds of thousands, you heard me right, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked through Fort Bliss. And so this case with Greville Clarke is very serious because we cannot forget about Vanessa Guillen, what happened in 2020. Um, Soldiers were I mean, it was a brutal killing, absolutely a brutal killing. And they never meant to find her body, but God meant to find it. They did find the body, and it was a disaster. And there were real firings. It was really a just crazy, crazy aftermath after uh, finding Vanessa Guillen's body. That was at the beginning of July, okay, that they came out. And of course, that same month is when Richard was his life was brutally ended, and his body then was stolen, right? Dismembered and trafficked for profit. Uh, so, um, this is what was going on. And in March of 2021, they didn't have a handle on it. You're telling me that 44 four-star generals and all the flag officers, one officer in the military for 4 soldiers, could not handle securing the barracks where our soldiers need to go to sleep, need to go bathe, right? They couldn't handle that. And they allowed Greville Clarke to not just be a predator one time, but many times over 18 months, and did not get this, and did not tell anybody that there was a predator that they were allowing to wreak havoc, um, threatening the lives, not only the assaults, the worst type of assaults against women, um, not just that, but also the threatening of their very lives, and then the breaching of security. This leadership, and I have to tell you, this leadership was under the Force General, the rotten, the traitor, I don't have bad enough names for him, okay? I, if I even dropped the F bomb, it would not be low enough for him. He is so low, so bad, he needs to be arrested. And that is Michael Xavier Garrett. Michael Xavier Garrett, the 4-star general, the Force general over Fort Hood and over Fort Bliss at the time that allowed this to happen to our country, to our soldiers, to service members, to their families, and it was, and I am just doing the tip of the iceberg. This general is just, I, I don't, like I said, there is not a word that is bad enough for him. Maybe I need to look up in my German dictionary the worst type of names that I could call a traitor, a treasonous, a just despicable human being. Okay, no, subhuman. So I see these. All of what I'm saying is too good for him. It's just too good for him. That's how disgusting, gross he is, and he is absolutely attached to El Paso and Fort Bliss. Well, he's a force com, but he's absolutely attached to Fort Bliss too. Okay. I mean, that's just, Fort Bliss is where the worst type of crimes against children are trafficked to let that happen. Right. And all the other things all the other criminal trafficking. So this is really, for Clark to not be alive anymore at Fort Leavenworth. Um, there was, I think, it's suspicious to me that they wanted to silence him. He must have known something. So, um, I don't know. It just seems like that to me. Um, let's go on to Charlie Kirk. Because we have thousands and thousands of followers. Okay, literally, we have thousands and thousands of followers. And I'm getting a lot of information, and there's a lot of concern about the way Charlie Kirk's investigation has come out, right? And there seems to be such a comparison to the Walmart mass shooting and Patrick Crucius. Okay. It seems like Tyler Robinson is a patsy like Patsy was. Okay. I mean, God just, God has a sense of just putting it in our face. Patrick Crucius was absolutely a patsy, right? Absolutely. Now, he admitted to shooting one or two, which is enough for the death penalty. And because the rogue DA's office there in El Paso is illegitimate, they cannot move forward in any kind of prosecution. Okay. That's why you saw the quick ending of the case, even after 6 years or whatever, then they just rushed it because of what we had discovered with the Mayella family being the Crucius family. The Crucius family is the Mayella family being at the federal courthouse wearing the courthouse shoes, right? The manager. And then also being in the FBI, and the FBI where Conal Whetten is the assistant agent in charge. That is absolutely compromised. He's compromised with his Mormon faction loyalty instead of to the United States, and he was then, of course, favoring his criminal Mormon faction members and interfering with our son's case. I mean, that's just as plain as that's what the evidence just tells everybody plainly. And um, uh, yeah, there's just this comparison with this broken FBI office, a compromised FBI office, a compromised medical examiner, a compromised DA office, a compromised law enforcement, a compromised judicial, and now we have the Charlie Kirk's case, looking that Utah is not up to snuff. Okay, that Utah is not up to snuff when it comes to being American. Okay, that something is very, very wrong with the way that they dealt with Charlie Kirk there at UVU. Uh, And why am I saying this? Because I'm getting sent so much that, you know, that Charlie Kirk did not have an autopsy. What the heck? Um, Look, it is required by law. Whether I like it or not, or request it or not, or the family requests it or not, it's required by law. And uh, to have that. This is this is not a natural death, right? This is absolutely a case where it is required. And to not have that, something is stinky. Then to not secure the crime scene, just like they didn't secure the crime scene um, for the Walmart mass shooting. It took 48 hours to secure the crime scene. They did not secure the crime scene there at UVU. Matter of fact, they went and got contractors to pave over the grass where Charlie Kirk sat. Can you believe it? They did not something is, and you have to understand that the states, because we are these United States, um, there is and plus this is a university, so there's jurisdictions involved in all of this, and something is really fishy with how they're conducting um, this cover up. It's absolutely a cover up. There's no doubt in my mind. Um, because the evidence, and of course, my husband being a physician assistant, a lot of times an entry wound is so small um, that you have a hard time even finding it. Okay, it's the exit wound that is the damage. Okay, and if there a rifle was used, like they said, and he was hit from the front, like they said, something is very wrong there because uh, professionals say, no way, no way. His half his neck would have been gone. Okay. And that has been confirmed by, oh gosh, you know, a huge host of professional shooters and weaponaires, or what do you call them? The armsmen, or um, anyway, um, it's just I'm just delivering the news to you that something is very fishy, that the reports are all over the place. Um, the common denominator seems to be that post that I pointed about the sound, where the sound from many different recorders, uh, they were mathematically analyzed, and uh, there was uh, a spot, an intersection of those sounds. And those were behind and to the right of Charlie Kirk as where the sound came from, meaning where the gunshot came from, right? And what kind of caliber? Um, it seems to be very small. Okay, and then you have some wild theories, and these are all theories, and what they prove is that nobody believes the narrative. That's what I'm trying to say. And just like the Walmart mass shooting narrative was totally false, absurdly false, right? And it took seals and deals and gag orders and a media, complicit media, to cover up the real, what really happened at the Walmart mass shooting, right? And this seems like the same thing going on with Charlie Kirk. Seals and deals and probably gag orders are going to come. And look, they're even wanting for Tyler Robinson an appointed counsel. They want the money, the open checkbook, just like with Pat C. Um, so it's so many similarities, and the major similarity is that the narrative is so absurd, it just cannot be believed. And so we'll see what happens. We're keeping a close eye. We're getting told some just wild stories. And I'm sure you're getting told some wild stories about how this all happened. And of course, we need the forensics, we need the ballistics. And of course, we didn't get that from the Walmart mass shooting case. Even though we paid millions and millions of dollars for it, we didn't get it. And hopefully, with Charlie Kirk, we will. We will. So we'll see what happens. But of course, now we have the arrest of James Comey, rightfully so. We all know what a jerk, what a sleazebag. The President Trump is being very kind, calling James Comey a sleazebag because he is in the same he's in the same pea pod as Garrett. General Garrett, and uh, James Comey, they must have the same parents, They they must have the same, they must come from the same spawn. Maybe they don't have parents, the spawn, right, of evil, the spawn of evil, because both of them did so much harm to our country, and that's been confirmed. It's not a guess. And that he was indicted, that it must have taken I don't, it takes our case, we say, oh, 3,000 letters. It, to get that grand jury to even indict him on 2 counts, the amount of hard evidence must have been like Mount Everest. Okay. That's, that's what we've learned from our son's case. It is that you have to collect, collect, collect. You have to absolutely identify the crimes and document the crimes and file the crimes. And you can't just do it once. You have to do it a mountainous amount of time to move this wheel of justice, because the leadership and those that are in those positions are the criminals. So you've got to move the criminals to investigate the criminals. And James Comey is the director of the FBI, former director of the FBI. It must have taken a mountain like Mount Everest to get those 2 indictments. So he's a real sleazebag, y'all. He's a real sleazebag. If he got these indictments, and I would put him right there in the same box, category, whatever, however you want to, the spawn of Satan of Michael Xavier Garrett. Okay, just real sleazebags, sleazebags. So that is, and what does that say? That says that the FBI, sleazebaggy, really bad cop, um, are not immune, are not immune. That's what it says, that accountability is here, right? And so Colin Whetten, who is really another sleazebag, um, and you're going to hear more about him, okay? Because he's the assistant FBI agent in charge right there in El Paso. And now we have a new FBI special agent in charge, Jared Brown. And so we'll see if Jared Brown has the message that he needs to do his job, that he needs to run a an office that goes after bad guys, not going after innocent people by weaponizing the FBI like they did on January 6th. Um, and that came out too today, right? That they weaponized the FBI under Ray, right? Christopher Ray. Um, and yeah, he's yeah, hopefully he's next, Christopher Ray, because we have personal experience with him, and he's up to no good. Um, so you can't weaponize the FBI, to go after the innocent people, right? You need to go after the criminals, and and it's a real problem in El Paso. You just saw that with this probation given out to this worst type of crimes against children, with even the grooming of the children. William Molinar, right? He's the worst type of criminal. And he got probation. So you see that things are still upside down. And now with Comey being indicted, I think that it's starting to turn back. And so we have to work very, very hard to turn the justice system and the law enforcement system and our agencies right side up again. That's what we need to do. So, and you saw that it has been confirmed, and we saw it with our own eyes, y'all. We saw it with our own eyes. 270, right? 270, I don't know the number exactly, and over 2 dozen informants, 270 FBI agents there on the ground of January 6th. And of course, I talked to them, right? And you can tell who's who, okay? Because you can tell the patriots there that are there to, root for President Trump. That's and it was such a cold day, right? And they were all great. And we were saying the Lord's Prayer, and we were singing patriotic songs, and we were waiting for the result. We were hoping that the vice president at the time, who's also a scumbag, would do the right thing and have a recount, just like they did with the Gore election. There were clear signs that there was tampering with the election. Now we know that it was stolen. We know that now. The evidence declares that. Now people don't want to admit that, but that's just the way it is, that it was stolen. And there needed to be a recount, and Pence didn't do that. He's a traitor. He's a scumbag like Comey and Garrett. He's in that scumbag traitor category. I don't think well, maybe he is as bad as Garrett. I mean, I guess I just know so much about Garrett and how his team weaponizes against innocent people. Yeah, yeah. He's a spawn of evil, really. He is. So, yeah, that is really a good development that Comey was arrested. It was a good message for our son's case, for law enforcement to start turning it right side up. That's upside down. And then what else did I want to talk about? Um, uh, James Montoya, uh, uh, Brookshire. So much is going on with Trooper Brookshire. That is a real doozer. He's a real scumbag too. Real doozer, real criminal, super criminal, the trooper. And the big thing that you need to know about Patrick Brookshire, the trooper, besides his wife being the family of the owners of Dreams Cabaret, where Leilani Hart was getting her mail, which is a huge, huge deal. But what you really need to know about him is that For years we've been pursued, targeted, and harassed and threatened, and just really, it's just been terrible, right? And we've reported these people, this group, okay, this group, and this group is still very active today. With all the nonsense, they absolutely need to be arrested. And they say a lot of lies, even though we have uh, all the documents that say otherwise. They try to put out a false narrative, because they're trying to protect themselves, right? Because they're up to no good and they were part of this. Well, he got online, and the things that he said, absolutely, he went after our son, Richard, and opining about Richard and his loss of life and everything. And the only one that would do that, especially a trooper, would be somebody that had enough information, had inside information. So, of course, we looked him up. And he's, pretty vile and vulgar individual. And not too smart, though. Not too smart, just vile and vulgar. And and, it turns out that when we were looking into him and filed a complaint, he started to delete the things that he put up, which is evidence tampering. Okay. He tampered with evidence. He knows better because he's a trooper. He's a DPS, a Department of Public Safety trooper, and he knows better. And he, instead of doing the right thing, right, or trying to backpedal, no, he joined the very group we had been reporting. He entered in the crime scene. That's what he did. He entered the crime scene and even started promoting the crime scene. Um, so this is really, he's so criminal. And that's what you need to know about that case going forward, because it is going to be a doozer. It's going to be, it's very bad for DPS. DPS with Jose Sanchez, the director, right, doing his frisky business with his honey trap, the honey trap with all the cars, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of unexplained, lots of unexplained wealth. Okay, when you own a car that's worth like $300,000, just the care on that car, it costs a lot of money. So it's a lot of, and she had multiple, over a dozen of these, cars. That costs a lot. Where do you even park these cars, right? And half of them, like, I don't know if they exactly half, but I'm just saying half of them with disability veterans license plates on them. I mean, it's such a scam. It's absolutely such a scam and such a fraud. And the director, the Western District Director of Department of Public Safety, is doing frisky business on taxpayer time. He could do it in private, but this was taxpayer time. In the open, clearly, this is a big problem. It's a really big problem. Uh, I don't even know. Yeah, it's a big problem. So that's big news. And of course, um, the deaths that are so brazen in El Paso with these models. The modeling business and stuff like that in El Paso is very linked to cartels. We have that confirmed, and trafficking. So then of course, Mexican president Scheinbaum went to Juarez, Mexico, and the people of Chihuahua, that's the state that Juarez is in, they're not too happy with Mario Campos, and they let Scheinbaum know that they're not too happy at all. with her giggly and her, it's kind of like Veronica Escobar, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, how beautiful, how fair am I? That's all she cares about, Maru Campos, when you have 400 rotting bodies with rats running through it and everything, and families still wanting to, have those identified because fraud was perpetrated on them and they want to know, since their urns are filled with just ground up rocks or mortar dust, where their loved ones' bodies are. Mauro Campos is a Sinaloa cartel. She's part of the Chapitos um, um, faction of the Sinaloa cartel, part of this uh, rotting body recycling, trafficking, fraud scheme, and worse, right? And worse. And so the whole state that she's running is has been compromised, and we've have evidence and evidence. We're not just saying that. This is all backed and confirmed by um, loads of evidence. So yeah, we appreciate you coming on. We're getting closer and closer. And with these indictments, they're getting closer and closer. And with the generals, I think that what Secretary Hegseth, I'm hoping, I'm really praying that a lot of these generals will be let go. Because even if we're like, I know we're weak uh, right now, and the war is brewing because they're all like wanting to play the maggot right now, right? Act the maggot, we say in Ireland. All of these, Russia and China and all that, because um, there's no moral power there. They're just all acting the maggot, and that's how wars start brewing. They think they're empowered, that they could take land, that they could take other countries, that they could take power. And so this is, in our view, this is uh, what's going on. And um, even with that, you have to remember World War II, 7 generals, seven moral, strong generals like MacArthur and Patton, and you know, you, they were just demanded discipline from the military in a welcoming way, right? In a welcoming way. You knew it was for national security. You knew it was for the betterment of yourself, of your family, and I'm not the biggest fan of World War II. I mean, how can I be the fan of World War II? I left my mother fatherless. And this is on the German side, right? On the German side, I know a lot about the German side and what, forced participation with a leader that you don't like, and you're forced to participate, and you give your life to something that you're forced to participate in. It's like this whole Ukraine thing. And, so that's why a volunteer military is so important, right? Um, so I'm not the biggest fan of World War II and the damage that it did to cities and structures and things like this. I mean, I just have my reasons. I don't like the way they did the war, but the uh, I was so happy to see the church in Dresden be rebuilt. Um, I just think there's better, but war is different today. It's more precise. It's not carpet bombs. I mean, think about Laos. Laos is the most carpet bombed. It is the most bombed country in the world, and people don't even know that. I mean, it was carpet bombed for weeks. I don't know what they were trying to get rid of there. I really don't. It's just, but you know, eh, it would be interesting to find out, but uh, this is, we don't want war. We don't want all of these drone wars and all of that. We want the only thing that's going to stop that, of course, is God's grace, but a very disciplined, morally, ethically disciplined military. And it doesn't take um, hundreds and hundreds of generals. It takes good ones, not corrupt, willing to compromise their own soldiers, willing to cover for criminals and let the whistleblowers be murdered brutally. Okay, because that was Vanessa Guillen and that was our son, Richard Halliday. And so this is, a hopeful sign. Hopefully, he'll let some people go, and then hopefully they'll be prosecuted after that. But yeah, maybe they'll, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. It's a lot. I'm hearing all kinds of stories. So I will keep you updated. So thank you so much. This whole Whetten thing, before I go, this whole Whetten thing, I want to also, from the beginning, very close to the beginning, I pointed out Colonial Juarez, how Colonial Juarez is the Mormon faction that, uh, and at the beginning I said seemed very like a common denominator with our son's suspects in our son's case. And there's, all these like uh, children shelters and orphanages, and it seemed very, very these ranches, like you don't want William Molinar driving your child around, okay? And I don't know what he puts in his trailers, but he's up to no good, okay? And the group he's with. So, um, this this Colonial Juarez is the historical place where this Mormon faction left the United States. They left the United States and went to Mexico, to Colonial Juarez. It's a beautiful place there. That's where their temple is. That's where their big school is, where a lot of people from the United States send their children to school there. It's a boarding school, um, and they send them there. It's right on the mountains there. It's just beautiful area. But they went there because they did not like the laws in the United States. They're polygamists. They were polygamists. Okay, that means they had, a lot of wives, right? Which was illegal even in Utah. Okay, it was illegal in the United States to have multiple wives. And so this group of this Mormon faction went there. This Mormon faction is is the Romney family. Okay, Mitt Romney, the Mitt Romney family, but it's also the Conal Whetten family. Okay, that's where they're coming. They have a dual citizen, right? They keep their American citizenship to take advantage of the United States, but they have no regard for the laws, and that explain because look, they left to thwart the law. They didn't want the law of the United States, and so and just a lot of nonsense has happened since, and it's pretty criminal. It's very criminal, but they, want all the benefits of the United States without having to evade the law, right? To evade the law. So this is important to understand where the loyalty is of this Mormon faction. It's not with the United States law. Okay. And that's what makes a country, right? The Constitution is what makes the country. The Constitution, and then you have your flag, you have your colors that represent the law, the country. It's defined in that Constitution, it's defined by its laws. And, if you have no respect for that, how can you be in the FBI unless you were trying to cover up for your faction and the criminality that it's doing? So this is why Leilani Hart was covered up, and she, of course, confessed to the worst type of crimes against children, and why Conal Whetten just covered for that, and why he has covered for so much other crime. And it even gets more and more interesting, and I'll let you know because it gets into this whole January 6th thing. So he has no respect for even the election laws, for uh, eh, just for the United States and how it works. His loyalty is to his faction. His loyalty is to his faction that he descends from colonial Juarez in Chihuahua, Mexico. And yeah, so that is confirmed by all the evidence that we have had, and his own actions. His own actions are absolutely um, pretty traitorous. Is that a word? Traitorous. Um, so thank you so much. And I know that's a lot. All of these powerful people that that I, have to inform everybody about, because it's these powerful people that have put us in this situation where we can have this major war, right? That's the problem. Uh, it's all of this nonsense, this division, this fraud, this not following the law, this impersonating, um, goodness, and trying to be in the FBI, but yet your loyalty is with a criminal organization. And it's very criminal over there. Um, eh, like I said, Chihuahua has been compromised. Okay. Just because you're part of the Mormon faction doesn't give you an out on that one. You're over there. Uh, and we know that by the LeBaron family. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of evidence that supports what we're saying, and that is why the Walmart mass shooting was so tampered with, and that is why our son's case was so tampered with, and why criminals are walking around right now when they should have been arrested and prosecuted. So hopefully Cash Patel can put this right side up. He needs to put it right side up, and taking John Morales out of the position, out of El Paso SAC office, the El Paso FBI field office, and replacing with Jared Brown. We'll see. We'll see. And then, of course, with FBI Director Comey being indicted, and hopefully Ray will be, and many more. And hopefully, this is the first of many. So, thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers and your love. Thank you so, so much. Oh, did he really die? This is the thing with this whole Charlie Kirk thing. The theories just go crazy, right? It just goes crazy. We need the forensics. We need the ballistics. We needed a secured crime scene. They've paved over the place. It's just outrageous what they've done. So, anyway, thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back.